Hi there, welcome to Learning Kitchen Live, episode 16. My name is Jessica Burch. I'm one of the dietitians at Community Servings. And as you can see, I'm working from home these days, so welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be talking about why somebody like me, a dietitian, is trying to convince everybody else out there to eat at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables each day. We're going to talk about what those serving sizes look like, why it's important to eat them, and discuss some different ways that we can sneak fruits and vegetables into the foods that you're already eating right now. So, my first tip for increasing the fruits and vegetables in your diet is to try today's recipe. It's pasta with kale pesto, cannellini beans, and all the veggies. It's really easy to make, absolutely delicious. And when I say all the veggies, what I really mean is whatever vegetables you have available. The recipe will be posted underneath the video in the comment section when this is over. And you'll see if you look at it that I put some of my favorite vegetables in there. But you should really choose the ones that you like. Pick what you have available, what's hiding in those nooks and crannies in the back of your refrigerator, the things that you like the best, what you have access to. If all you've got is carrots and onions, then use carrots and onions. If you've got canned vegetables, there's absolutely no shame in that. They can be delicious in a dish just like this. Just remember to rinse them off before you use them. All right, with that being said, let's get started. If you're just tuning in, this is Learning Kitchen Live, episode 16. We are gonna be making a kale pesto with lots of other veggies for pasta. And we're gonna be talking about why vegetables and fruits are so important for us. So, when we talk about pesto, there are 5 ingredients that go into a pesto: pine nuts, basil, olive oil, garlic, and Parmesan cheese. Now, pine nuts are really expensive, and so, it makes sense. They are the nuts that come out of a very specific pine cone. So imagine taking a pine cone and having to pull it apart, pull out those little tiny nuts that are in super sharp shell or hard shells, pull those little tiny pine nuts out of that shell, and then keep doing it to get tons and tons of pine nuts. Oh, it's a lot of work. So it makes sense to me that pine nuts can be expensive. I haven't purchased pine nuts in years because I found that you can use lots of other things in place of the pine nuts and still make a delicious pesto. You don't have to use any nuts and they'll still be a really good pesto. What I'm going to use today is pumpkin seeds. You can also use pecans, almonds, sunflower seeds. All of those are great substitutes. But what I'm going to do is turn on the wrong burner. I'm going to turn on the right burner to medium-low heat. And I'm going to take my pumpkin seeds and just start to toast them lightly. There's no oil in here, nothing. It's just the dry pan with the pumpkin seeds added in. The reason that I like pumpkin seeds so much is that they are very inexpensive, very easy to find. They add a really rich, nutty, earthy flavor to the pesto, and they're full of iron, which is another great additive that we can just kind of get from having them involved in this dish. So I'm just going to give them a second. The pan's starting to get hot. I just want them to get a little bit golden and start to become aromatic so that I can smell their oils starting to warm up. And that'll just make it a little bit tastier. If you want to skip this step, you totally can. It's not necessary. But while those are toasting, we are going to talk about the second ingredient in a pesto, which is usually what we think of as a pesto is basil. But basil is another thing that unless you're growing it for yourself and you have a lot in pots or in a garden in the back, it's kind of hard to come by. And you usually need a fair amount of it to make a pesto. So have no fear, you can use pretty much any other flavorful green out there. I really like to use kale. You can use collard greens, spinach, arugula. A mix of all of these things would work well also. If you're going to use kale or collard greens, what you want to try to do is make sure that you remove this thick inner stem, simply because it kind of gets a little bit crunchy in the pesto and it doesn't work very well. So this is super difficult. Oh, you're feeling very ambitious about your vegetable consumption, you can chop these up and add them to the stir fry. I'm gonna add them to my compost pile. But if you've got little fingers at home that need to be made busy, you can give them a pile of kale or collard greens or whatever it is, and ask them to get your stems removed and ready for your pesto. So I took one bunch of, oh, let me just check my seeds. Okay, getting there. I took one bunch of kale and I ripped it up. And from that, I got about 4 cups of kale for my pesto. And we'll talk about why those 4 cups are important in a second. But what I'm gonna do is just take all of this here and stick it straight into my Cuisinart. You can use a blender to do this as well. I am just fortunate enough to have a Cuisinart, which I love and use all the time. So I've got my kale in here, and my pumpkin seeds, I don't know if you can see, are just starting to get a little golden, and I can smell them. It almost smells like a woodsy popcorn. But I'm gonna dump these right out of my pan and into my Cuisinart. Voila. And what I'm gonna do next is turn my oven back on, or my stove back on, and I'm gonna take all of my oil for my pesto. So the ingredients for pesto are pine nut, or we're using pumpkin seeds, a leaf, we're using kale, and then olive oil. I'm gonna heat this oil up, and I'll explain why in one second. Oops, there's a little piece of kale leaf in there. Over low heat. And the reason that I'm heating this up ahead of time is I don't like the flavor of raw garlic. I find it very sharp, and you get garlic breath for like a whole day. It can give you indigestion. And for me, that's not really the direction I'm going. If you like raw garlic, you can skip this step completely as well. But this way, what I do is I take the olive oil that I'm going to use in my pesto, I saute my garlic cloves, or just kind of let them sit in the oil. I can already smell it. It smells amazing. And what that does is it cooks down the garlic, so it takes that sharpness away. It takes that raw garlic flavor out of the dish. It infuses the oil with the garlic flavor, which is also really nice. And then adding this warm oil kind of breaks down the kale leaves a little bit. Just that small amount of heat cooks them ever so slightly, so it just makes the dish a little bit richer and a little bit warmer. So I'm just gonna turn over. The garlic cooks pretty quickly in the oil, and you don't want it to burn. You don't have to oil pop. You don't have to chop it up or anything ahead of time. You can mash it and it will cook a little bit faster if it's mashed, but if you chop it, it'll cook really fast. But you can just do the whole garlic cloves like this. We'll give those one more minute to heat. So let's talk about why vegetables. But first, if you're just joining now, this is Learning Kitchen Live, episode 16. I'm Jessica. We are making a pasta with kale pesto, cannellini beans, and lots of veggies. And we're talking about why vegetables and fruits are a very important part of our diet. So let's start by talking about what portion sizes look like. So if I'm sitting here telling you, you have to eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day, that can seem kind of daunting when you're thinking about 5. Well, what 5? Like 5 of this? That's 5 of these? That's a lot, right? No, in fact, what a serving looks like is about the size, well, if it's raw, of a tennis ball, or about the size of my fist. So if you have raw cut up vegetables, about the size of my fist or a tennis ball would be 1 serving's worth. If they're cooked, it's a half of a tennis ball, or a half of a cup. If you want to get out your measuring cups and start measuring, by all means do it, but sometimes a visual like a tennis ball is a little bit easier way to go. The same rule of thumb goes for fruit. So if you're thinking about serving sizes for fruit, a single piece of fruit like an apple or a pear or an orange, we want to go for one that's about the size of a tennis ball. If it's bigger than that, you're getting a bigger portion. Good job! You're getting in more servings of fruits and vegetables. If it's smaller than that, then you might want to eat a little bit more or make sure that you're getting more later on. Okay, so this garlic clove was very eager to cook quickly, so I don't know if you can see, but it's a little bit golden, so I'm gonna just dump it right in there while these others two cook because I don't want that to burn. Oops, and a little piece of it fell off. Oh, the garlic oil smells so amazing. Pretty much all meals I feel like should start with garlic and oil in a pan. All right, this is almost ready. Another quick note about pestos is if you read a pesto recipe, they will tell you to put your ingredients in, blitz it a little bit, then gently drizzle your olive oil in. You can do that, but it's going to end up tasting the same way, or same as if you do it the way I'm going to do it, which is just to dump everything in at once and hit the on switch. But if you have the time, by all means, enjoy your drizzle. So, here we go. These garlic cloves are lovely golden. They're soft. They smell delicious. And I'm going to just plop them right here on top of my kale. Put these out of the way. And then, so this might pop a little bit because I rinsed my kale, so it is a little wet still. But I'm going to just pour in my olive oil. And next we're going to add in our Parmesan cheese. Now you can go buy some Parmigiano Reggiano in the big, yellow wax, and it's absolutely delicious. But, it's kind of expensive. This came out of a plastic jar. It's my husband's favorite thing in the world. He has to put it on everything, and it's gonna make the sauce taste, or the pesto taste just as good. Nobody's gonna know the difference, and it didn't cost me an arm and a leg. We love these things. All right, so I put in my Parmesan, and then I'm gonna add, and this is an optional ingredient, but I'm gonna put in some lemon juice. It's half of the juice of half of a lemon and the zest of one lemon. And I just like that because it really brightens up the flavor. Okay. Oh, and one more note on the Parmesan. So Parmesan and all cheeses have a lot of salt in them. So I'm not gonna put any salt in this until after I've mixed it all together and tasted it and see whether or not it actually needs any more salt, because it might not. All right, earmuffs, here comes the noise. That looks and smells amazing. And seriously, it could not have been any easier to do that. I'm just going to scrape it down and do one more. Perfect. All right, so 50% of our meal is already done. Love it. So easy. All right, so next, I've got a little coating of the garlic oil still on the bottom of my pan for cooking my vegetables. I'm gonna put my heat on. I'm gonna add a little bit more oil, about another tablespoon, just because we've got a lot of vegetables going in here. And that is what I was gonna talk about next. So if you're just joining now, this is Learning Kitchen Live, episode 16. Whoops, I'm Jessica, I'm dropping things. We are talking about vegetables and fruits and why they're so important for our diet. And we are making pasta with kale pesto, cannellini beans, and lots of vegetables. So let me put some things in here. because the pan was already hot, and then we'll talk about a little bit more. So this is 2 carrots. It comes out to about 1.5 cups. And then I'm gonna add in 1 small onion. It's about a little bit more than half of a cup. So if you're keeping track, that's 2 cups of vegetables so far. And I'm gonna add 1 bell pepper. This is a little bit over a cup. So we'll say, all in all in our pan right now, we've got close to 3 cups of veggies. And I'm gonna just give these, it's sizzling, a little stir to evenly disperse them. And I'm gonna just let them saute on medium heat for a moment. I'll talk loudly. Hopefully you can hear me over the sizzling of the vegetables. So we had almost 5 cups of kale that went into our pesto, and we had about 3 cups of vegetables that went into our pan already. So this dish is is about between 4 and 6 servings. So if you think about that, if you're gonna eat, I have to redo my math. 4, 3, 7, and then we've got 2 cups of zucchini here we're gonna add in a minute. So we're up to about 9 cups of vegetables in this one dish. Split between 4 or 6 servings, you're getting at least 1, if not 2 servings of vegetables from this one dish. And if you throw in a side salad, you're winning. It's huge, it's fantastic. Oh, I meant to say before, and I think I forgot this, but if we're talking about the serving sizes of vegetables, so 1 tennis ball of raw vegetables is 1 serving, a half a tennis ball of cooked vegetables is 1 serving, and if you're doing loose leaves like lettuce leaves, or for a salad, arugula, spinach, something like that, and it's in a salad, we're doing 2 tennis balls for 1 serving because there's that air in between the leaves, right? So that kind of covers the servings and what a serving might look like. The other thing to think about too is if you can make half of all of your meals, half of that plate, you think about drawing that plate and making half of it some sort of vegetable, that's going to help you meet your servings as well. But why do we care? Why do we want to have all of these vegetables? Why does it matter? When we're trying to be as healthy as we possibly can, making sure that we're getting all of the nutrients from the foods that we eat that our body needs is really important. Fruits and vegetables give us most of our vitamins, minerals, and something special called phytonutrients. Phytonutrients are molecules that exist in all fruits and vegetables that we're doing more and more research on and finding that they provide us with very special nutrients, for lack of a better word, that help boost our immune systems. They can help with brain function, digestive function. The research is just kind of starting to come together to prove how important these are. But aside from just the vitamins and minerals that the vegetables are providing us with, these phytonutrients are also very essential. Every different color of fruit or vegetable will give you a different grouping of vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients, so including as wide a variety as possible is important as well, because then you're going to get little bits of all of the things that you need. The other thing so when we think about it from the perspective of disease states that we might run into. If you have high blood pressure, we know that increasing the fruits and vegetables that you eat can help to lower your blood pressure. If you have high blood sugars, so if you have diabetes or at risk for developing diabetes, we know that including more vegetables, especially non-starchy vegetables like these, non-starchy vegetables are all the vegetables under the sun with the exception of potatoes, parsnips, winter squashes, cassava, manioc, yuca, whatever you want to call it. But all of those other vegetables, those are the starchy ones. All of the other ones, the non-starchy ones, those are the ones that can help to reduce blood sugar levels. They're also full of fiber. fiber acts as a broom. It sweeps our body clean. Certain types of fiber can actually pull cholesterol out of your blood and get it out of your body. I mean, if we're talking about food as medicine, fruits and vegetables are really our medicine. Pay your farmer, not your pharmacist, right? This is where we're going to be getting all of those good, wonderful things that we need to keep us healthy so we can avoid more doctor's appointments and more medications down the road. Okay, I'm going to add in my zucchini. I saved the zucchini because it's a softer vegetable and it cooks down faster. And I wanted to let the other veggies start to get a little bit of their golden deliciousness going before I added the zucchini, which its extra fluid will steam the vegetables a little bit. Okay. So we talked about portion sizes. We talked about why we need them, why we need our vegetables. So let's talk about how we can sneak them in. And while, let's see, yep. So right now, if fruits and vegetables are not a big component of your regular diet, start small. If you maybe have one serving of vegetables a day, okay, can you add in one more? If you try to take on a whole lot all at once, you're going to get overwhelmed and you're not going to want to do it anymore. So take baby steps. And celebrate the victories that you have. Each time you can add in another serving of fruit or vegetable, you're really heading in a much better direction. If we look at the day of meals and start with breakfast, a lot of people don't really think of vegetables as part of breakfast, but fruit can be. If your usual breakfast is something like a bagel with cream cheese, can you have a piece of fruit on the side? Can you put some other topping on top of that bagel that will give you some fruit and vegetable? Like sliced up apples with a little sprinkle of cinnamon. Could you put tomato and lettuce, some sprouts, some cucumbers on top of that bagel? Oh, this is hot. Can you, if you're doing something like cereal or oatmeal in the morning for breakfast, can you add some fruit to that or have fruit on the side? If eggs are your breakfast, can you saute up a little bit of vegetable beforehand and then mix that into your eggs? If you're on the run, which when I wasn't working from home, breakfast was always a hard thing because I was always running out the door. And honestly, what I would grab for breakfast each morning was a cheese stick, a handful of whole wheat crackers, and some cherry tomatoes or grapes or an apple. And if you think about that, it's not the greatest breakfast, but I'm hitting all the food categories, and that's what we want to try to do. Make sure that we're incorporating as many of those different groups of foods into each meal and always trying to include a fruit or a vegetable. So then if we move on to lunch, what do you have for lunch right now? Is it a sandwich, ham and cheese? Can you throw some lettuce and tomato on there? Or cucumbers, peppers, sprouts, shredded carrots, shredded cabbage? Can you do a side salad? Can you grab an apple? Can you add in an orange or open a little one of those, I guess you don't call them cans, the little plastic things with peaches or fruit cup or pears, and have that as a side to your lunch. All of these things are little ways that you can sneak some more fruits and vegetables into your meals. Then if we think about snacks as a mini meal. We want to try to include as many food groups into that mini meal as we can. So if a usual snack is a handful of pretzels, can you also have a handful of grapes? Can you swap that out for some whole wheat crackers, hummus, and carrot slices? Can you do ants on a log, celery, peanut butter, and raisins? All of these things are just little things to think about when you're trying to increase your fruit and vegetable intake. All right, we'll talk about dinner in 1 second, but my veggies are looking scrumdiddlyumptious. So I am going to now add in my cannellini beans. I add them at the end because they did come from a can, so they're softer, and I don't want them to just totally fall apart. Cannellini beans are white kidney beans. I think they go really well in a pasta dish with pesto. They go really well in a pasta dish with tomato too. You can use pigeon peas, you can use fava beans, lima beans, all of those would work as well. They're a great source of vegetarian protein. Paired with the pumpkin seeds, we're gonna have what dietitians would call a complete protein. So that means that it's basically the same as eating a piece of meat, but we're not actually eating any meat, we're just having vegetables. And to this, I am gonna add the other half of the lemon juice. And that's just going to add another layer of flavor, woo, and a little bit of steam.
Oh, it smells so good.
Runaway bean. And now I'm just trying to heat my beans through. Let those come together ever so slightly. And heat up. If you want to skip the pasta completely, you can do double the beans and just have this amazing bean medley with all the vegetables and a dollop of pesto on top, and it will be absolutely delicious. So dinners, we talked about breakfast, lunch, snacks. Let's talk about dinners and how we can add some more vegetables into them. I feel like when I talk to patients or clients, that a dinner is where they normally have their vegetable. They're trying to have their square meal, so they have their protein, their starch, and their veg. That's great. Can you add more vegetables in so that you're increasing your servings of vegetables at that one meal? If rice is if rice is your favorite starch, can you chop up some carrot, celery, and onion, throw that into the pan before you add the rice? You're increasing your vegetable intake, you're increasing the flavor of that rice, you're increasing the nutrients. Yum, 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 right? If you're gonna have like pasta and just open a jar of tomato sauce, which is super easy and quick and wonderful, can you, if you're gonna heat that up, again, celery, onion, carrot in a pan, chopped up, let them saute for just a minute, and then pour in that jar of tomato sauce and let it heat up that way before adding it to your pasta. You're increasing your veggies really, really easily. When you're doing soups or stews or any of those other things, chop up a few extra vegetables and throw them in. They'll meld into your, whatever sauces you're creating very easily and increase the flavor, make everything more delicious and way more nutritious. So, we talked about portion sizes. We talked about why we need our veggies. We talked about ways that we can increase vegetables at our meals and snacks throughout the day. We've cooked our veggies. These are nice and warm and smelling lovely. And so now I'm just gonna assemble the dish and you'll see how super easy this was. I did cheat and I cooked the pasta ahead of time. So I'm just gonna dump in my pasta. Any pasta will do. My son really likes bow ties right now, so that's the direction we're going in. And it might be easier to do this in a bowl, but I'm gonna do it in my pan and hopefully not spill too much of it. So I'm just mixing my veggies into my noodles so that only a few end up on the floor. So that it's all evenly dispersed. And then I'm gonna take my pesto that's been sitting here smelling amazing. And pour that right on top. If you have any questions, I meant to say this earlier, you're welcome to post them in the comment section below, and if I see them, I will answer, or one of my colleagues, who I believe are all watching right now, can also answer your questions. All right. Oh, this just looks so yummy. And you know, the other thing I meant to mention was if you make your pestos from things like kale that are available year-round, you can have pesto in the dead of winter and pretend that it's summer. At least I think of pesto as like more of a summery dish. Okay, so just mixing this all together and covering my noodles and my veggies with our citrusy, it smells so, the combination of the garlic and the lemon, I'm hungry. All right, there we go. And the other nice thing about this dish is it's amazing warm, but it works really well for leftovers too. And so here we've got dinner for 6 with lots of servings of veggies. And we will serve up a plate to give you a peek. You can give it a taste and decide if you want to add more salt or pepper, or even like some red chili flakes would be delicious. And I'm gonna have a bite and enjoy. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to post them. Thanks so much for joining today, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.